Miriam Parmenter is Cambridge School's first ever teacher. She's been in the company for over 38 years, and after a successful career in teaching and an immense 38-year contribution to our school, she's now retiring. Miriam, 38 years as a teacher is a lot of teaching. But let's start from the beginning. We'd like to know more about you and about your origins. What brought you here to Granollers?
Well, yes, actually it was love that brought me here. I had a boyfriend who lived here, so I came from Andalusia to be with him. And then, in fact, it was a summer, excuse me, and I worked in Mataró in a reputable school for the summer course, but I didn't have a job to go to in September. And just by chance, the man who set up Cambridge School was looking for a teacher, and here I was.
And how does it feel to know that you were the first teacher at Cambridge School ever?
Well, I feel very privileged to have been there right at the beginning. But really, being the first teacher is just an anecdote. It doesn't matter if you're the first teacher or the 100th teacher. But it's really been fun to see the school grow and to be part of it all this time.
And which centres have you taught in, and in what position?
Well, I taught in Granollers, I think it was, for about 28 years. I would say that because that's what I calculated at the time. And then when Cambridge School opened a small school in Caldes de Montbui, I went there as a kind of coordinator director, and was there for about 3.5 years, and then came back to Granollers. And then the opportunity came to open a school in La Roca, where I live. So I was asked to go and be the centre director there, and I enjoyed that very much. Of course, directors at Cambridge School are always teachers, and we do a lot of teaching too, so I enjoyed that, meeting people I didn't know from La Roca. And then in 2018, I think it was, the Villanova school opened, and again I went there to be the director and teach for a year.
And what do you think is your strongest skill?
Oh, that's difficult. I never think I have many skills, but perhaps being able to build a rapport with the students. I love teaching the little kids because they're such fun, and adults too. You can actually have a relationship with the adults. Perhaps not so much the teenagers, because especially lately they think I'm too old, and they tell me.
Have you calculated how many students you've taught over the years?
No, I wouldn't know how to do that, in fact, because I'm no good at numbers, and I could probably say 1 million, but I don't suppose that's right.
I think you'd probably teach about 100 a year, wouldn't you? Something like that, I don't know.
Possibly. Oh, but that's such a big number.
Did you think that you were going to be a teacher? Was it your dream job when you were a child?
I think it was my mum's dream job for me, but I think I wanted to be an actor or a nurse, something like that. But I didn't have any great ambitions, in fact, but I really enjoyed languages at school, and it was the only thing I was good at. So I think that's what led me to becoming an English teacher.
Okay. And are you ever stopped in the street by ex-students, and what do they say to you?
Sometimes people wave at me in the street. I wouldn't say they stop me in the street, but it's true that in cafes or restaurants, people approach me and tell me that they were my student or their child is their student. And of course, unfortunately, I can't remember everybody, but I absolutely love it when people come and tell me that they had been my student when they were younger.
Yeah,
and I'm really proud to teach their children as well.
And what are you going to miss most from Cambridge School, do you think?
Oh, I'm only just retired, and I think I'm going to miss everything. I'm going to miss being busy, I'm going to miss being with the teachers, I'm going to miss the students,
Okay. And is there anything that you're not going to miss at all?
Oh, yes. I'm not going to miss the difficulty I have with using the computer.
Okay.
I always have so many problems that I can't put right myself.
Right, okay. You used to be in the Cambridge School Christmas Pantomime, which was something we did for years, didn't we? For about 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Which pantomime do you recall the most and why?
Oh, I remember so many. I can't really remember the names of all the pantomimes, but there were so many fun times and so many funny incidents in pantomimes. I remember once when a detective had to make a telephone call and somebody had forgotten to put the telephone on the set, and the telephone appeared behind the curtain on somebody's hand. I remember me forgetting lines quite frequently. I also remember being the narrator, which I really loved because I quite like being the centre of attention. And I remember once introducing, I was narrating about the Shrek 3 pantomime, and I got the names muddled up, and instead of talking about Shrek and Fiona, I said Freck and Shiona. And then I realised what I'd said, and I couldn't stop laughing and couldn't finish the narration.
Well, that was part of the fun, wasn't it, of doing the pantomime?
And the other thing I really liked about the pantomime was it's the only place where I was allowed a microphone and able to sing in front of a whole load of people, unsuspecting victims.
Okay, now, thinking back over the 38 years, can you describe those 38 years at Cambridge School with a noun?
Oh gosh, difficult. Variety is the word that comes to mind because, I think it's the only job in which every single day is different, and in fact practically every hour is different, because during an afternoon's teaching or a day's teaching, we may go to a company and teach people in their business, or we may teach 3-year-olds and then 12-year-olds and teenagers and then adults. It's just so fantastically diverse that I can honestly say I have never ever woken up in the morning and thought, oh no, I've got to go to work. I feel so lucky.
Right, okay. And what about a verb?
Oh, a verb. Learn and teach. But actually, through teaching, you learn.
And an adverb?
An adverb. I can't remember an adverb at the moment. Yes, fast. 38 years have gone by so quickly.
Has English teaching changed over the years since you started?
Well, the fundamental methodology hasn't, because luckily when I started teaching, it was already teaching English through English, foreign languages through the language, instead of teaching about the language and just teaching grammar. So that hasn't changed. We always try to make our classroom communicative. But what has changed is the way we teach, in that I started with chalk and blackboard and I finished with computers and Zoom. I mean, that's going from prehistory into the future.
Yeah, that's true. What about an anecdote as a teacher?
Probably my favourite is some years ago, my B2 students had just finished their writing exam, and when we do an exam security is really important. So immediately after finishing the exam, as you know, we have to tear up the question papers. So I tore up the question papers. And then at the end of the day, I went to find my students' writing tasks, and they weren't where I thought I'd left them. And yes, I had torn them up. So I went to the bin, found every piece of the writing. Luckily there were only 6 students, and I spent the weekend with sellotape putting the writing tasks together But I was able to read them and give them the mark they deserved.
That was lucky that they were still there in the bin. And why would you recommend Cambridge School to someone?
Well, I think the main reason is that Cambridge School is a very, very professional school, and it has objectives for its students, in that the teachers don't just go into a classroom and think, what am I teaching today? We know exactly where we're going and the level that we're taking our students towards. And I think that's the most important thing.
Any advice for new teachers coming?
Perhaps relax, enjoy yourself, learn, and love the students.
And what about advice for students themselves?
I can only repeat the advice that I always have given all these years to my students, and which very few actually take notice of, especially the teenagers, in that it's so important to speak English in the classroom, but not only to your teacher, also to your classmates, because it's the only way you're going to get in the habit of communicating in English, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, I would agree. And what are you going to do now with all your free time?
Oh, I haven't decided yet. More exercise, get rid of these extra kilos. I'd like to do a little travelling, like visit European cities that we haven't got to visit yet, like, for example, Berlin or places like that. But I don't have any special projects in mind, but I'm sure they'll come.
Right, and so for 2023, what's your wish? Have you got any special things you'd like to do next year?
No, I suppose really the wish is just the thing that we always wish for when we get to my age, which is good health.
Yeah, true. Okay, now I'm going to give you some options and I'd like you just to choose them. Children or adults?
Oh, that's impossible. I can't choose. Children are amazing. They just pick up language and they don't worry about questioning it. They just learn. On the other hand, adults are really rewarding because they're always so motivated, and you can, as I said earlier, build a good rapport and a relationship with the students that you're teaching. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a right answer there.
What about A1 level or C2?
Oh, A1 level, please.
Yeah.
I enjoy beginning students. I think it's so exciting to be able to introduce them to learning a new language, and they're always surprised at how quickly they can learn.
Okay. And what about your own group or a group that you can cover somebody else's group?
I think I would always prefer my own groups, because that way you can see the progress of the students as the year goes on.
Sticky ball activity or Kahoot?
Oh, Kahoot. Sticky balls are just dangerous, the way all these handball players throw them.
Winter course or summer course intensive?
I think I prefer the winter course, again for the same reason, because you follow the same students. The summer course is a great fun and really useful, but you don't have enough time to get to know the students, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Report writing or homework correcting?
Well, you're going to call me a liar if I say I enjoy both. Because I enjoy writing reports, because I feel I know the students quite well, and I like the parents to know exactly how they're doing with detail. And correcting homework, these days we generally correct individually only writing tasks, and I always think that that's the only time you are spending with that student when you're correcting their writing tasks, and I enjoy that.
Okay, and do you prefer correct pronunciation or correct grammar from students?
No, correct pronunciation every time.
Yeah?
Yeah, because you can speak in, not correct grammar and be understood if your pronunciation is good enough.
British English or American English?
Oh, British, of course. But obviously any English is valid, and American English has a lot of power now because so many students watch American series, and that's great.
Story time in fairs or in libraries?
Oh, I loved it in libraries. Fairs, it was always a bit unpredictable with the wind and how many people were going to come. I enjoyed it very much in the libraries. I have fond memories.
Teaching on Zoom or face-to-face?
Face-to-face, please.
Being an actress in the pantomime or the narrator in the pantomime?
Well, that's another one. I think I enjoyed being a narrator.
And a personal one here. Do you prefer eating turrons or Christmas pudding?
Well, I have to confess that after all these years in Spain and Catalonia, I still don't like turron. So it's going to be Christmas pudding all the time, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, thank you, Miriam, and I hope you continue to enjoy your retirement, and maybe we'll invite you back to do a class from time to time.
Well, I hope so. I'd love that.
Thanks.